Hey everyone, and welcome to a new video on Bite of Geek. Today I'm going to be seeing whether it really is getting cheaper to buy and build your own PC. So let's check it out. So I'm currently in the process of looking at changing various aspects of my current PC build. It is quite a large kind of like mid-tower case. It's kind of almost like a 3/4 ATX case, and I've had that for a number of years, and obviously some of the components you have seen on the channel recently, I've gone and bought those for that build. It hasn't been a complete rebuild from scratch, and I put a poll on my community tab, ATX or ITX, bit of a clue as to some of the things I was looking at. And one of the things that really kind of struck me as I was going through the various things that I would have to change is just how expensive some of the components still are when you're building a computer system yourself. There's a lot of commentary and videos and things like that going around at the moment. Cryptocurrency, big crash, lots of used cards on the on eBay and things like that at ridiculous prices, and graphics cards prices in general coming down. But overall, is it still as expensive to build your own computer system? So I wanted to have a look into that a little bit more, and what I've decided to do, just put together this video for you guys, and just to kind of like take three levels of systems: a budget system, a mid-range system, and kind of like a premium / high-end system, and really show you how the price changes have changed over the kind of like the last 18 months, I guess, and whether there is actually any kind of downward trend in these in the pricing for these items. So what I will say straight from the get-go is that these systems that I've priced out, don't break me in the comments about this. They are by no means the worst or the best systems you could possibly build. The idea behind this is to take some generalized components at the various levels that you would potentially go and buy to put into those systems. It is representative of the pricing across the board in terms of PC components, and what is happening with those prices. I'm fully aware that you could have a better graphics card than what I put in for the high-end system, and you could probably have better RAM or a better motherboard or something like that in the low-end system. But at the end of the day, these prices are for all of the different components, all the different brands and things like that, they're all going in a similar kind of way. So please take that into account. Constructive feedback on this is more than welcome, but I do recognize that these aren't potentially the best possible systems you could get, or potentially the best value systems that you could get. I'm sure certainly on the high-end PC you could probably do better than some of the pricing that I've done there. One of the other things to point out as well, this is really just kind of like the base system component. So there's no keyboard or mouse included in this. There's no monitor in this. It's something everybody will want, something different from a monitor nowadays. There's no operating system included in there as well. You get your operating system and you pay as much as you want to pay for your operating system, whether that's completely free or a fully licensed version. So it is literally just the core base unit. So no additional fans, no AIO installation or anything like that. So you need to take all of that into account. On the high-end system, if you want to add all of that stuff in, stick 20 fans in your case and have AIO and stuff like that, that's entirely up to you. But as a starting point, I guess this is what I'm trying to represent here. So all of the systems are detailed down below in the description. There's links for all the different components if you want to get any of those. But what I will say is that none of this is really junk. So a budget system doesn't have to mean that you've got completely rubbish components in there. And that starts with the case and the power supply, I suppose. Yes, you could probably go and get yourself a £30 case, complete with absolute junk as a power supply for a budget system. You will potentially end up blowing up and killing your motherboard, any other components in the system. You'll probably lose an arm whilst trying to install that motherboard because the edges will be so sharp. So you want some level of quality when you're building these systems. So to start with, in terms of a case, I'm going with a Corsair 110Q, so it's a mid-tower ATX case. Doesn't really break the bank. It's in UK prices, it's quite a bit under £100 currently, and it's not it hasn't got your tempered glass panels. It is quite a solid case. It does have the luxury of having a bit more sound protection on it, and it comes from a pretty well-known brand, so I think you'll at least get a certain level of quality with that. And in terms of a power supply, I'm going to stick a Corsair power supply in that as well. So that is the CX550F, RGB as well, because budget level RGB will make you have higher frames per second, and it's an 80 plus bronze as well, so again decent quality level there, nothing too extravagant, isn't going to break the bank really. In terms of a motherboard, now there's lots of options here. The field is full of them. I contemplated going down to something A320 or something at that kind of level, but ultimately went with a B450 platform. So yes, this is an AMD based system. All of these systems are AMD based. Intel will have equivalent kind of pricing, I guess, in the way that all those components are at the moment. So a B450 based system, so it's the Aorus B450 Elite ATX motherboard, and seems to have pretty good reviews for it on Amazon. So I don't think you probably go wrong with that. We're going to stick 8 gigabytes of RAM into this system, so some Corsair Vengeance non-RGB, kind of like the low profile RAM as well, so it is a bit cheaper than kind of like the standard RAM out there. So again, some decent quality RAM, not the fastest out there. I think it's kind of like 2400 max speed on it, so good for a budget system, but obviously if you want faster RAM, then you pay more for it. In terms of storage, so hard drive, not even going to consider a hard drive for this, because we're not going for super high speed on this. So I guess probably, or super high speed in terms of all the other components, so probably having something like a relatively decent SSD inside this will benefit it ultimately. But again, in the budget price range, want something that is not too expensive, and so we're going to be stuck with something certainly less than a terabyte here. So we're going to go with a 480 gigabyte PNY SSD. Seems to have a reasonable price on that at the moment. And in terms of a CPU, now I originally put in a 3400, a Ryzen 5 3400G. There's only kind of currently £5 difference between a 3600G. So in terms of the overall pricing comparison, I've used the 3400G, but I think if you were buying this now, then potentially use the 3600G. And because we're using a chip that's got the Vega graphics on board, we're not going to be spending any money on a dedicated GPU for this system. So the motherboard's got a HDMI port on it, so we'll be absolutely fine there. So good for a kind of like a 1080p gaming system, probably low quality settings, but if this was a kind of like a first gaming PC for one of your kids or something like that, then this would be more than ideal. So they're the kind of like the core items that have got there as part of the budget system. Moving on to the mid-range one, so obviously just stepping up some of the components a little bit. So in terms of the case, we've gone for another Corsair case, so we've gone for the Spec Delta, so we've got the glass panel on it as well, so a little bit more of a premium quality build, I guess. We've gone for a slightly better power supply, which is the RM650, which is an 80 plus gold rated for that. So again, bit more premium components going into your build here, obviously it will ultimately affect the price overall. Motherboard, again, just stepping it up. We're going for a slightly better motherboard on this, so we're going for the Asus ROG B550. So we're going for the Strix, the B550F. So lots of nice little goodies on that board as well. And RAM, well, we had 8 gig on the budget, so we're going to go for 16 gig on the mid-range. It should be plenty for most people in terms of gaming. And again, we're going to go for the Corsair Vengeance, but we're just going for some slightly faster RAM on that. So I think that goes up to about 3000 megahertz, maybe 3200. Storage, up in the storage a bit more now, so we're going to go for a Crucial MX500 1TB SSD. Not doing NVMe on this. Could do, it would be a little bit more expensive, but I guess in terms of just keeping things for what you need on a mid-range, a 1TB SSD is probably fine. In terms of a GPU, so we're going for a Zotac RTX 3060. So really, budget system had no GPU other than what was on the built into the CPU. Really kind of like stepping up here. So in terms of CPUs, well, I've chosen the Ryzen 7 3700X. Yes, I know you could go for something slightly more recent. But remember what I said at the beginning of the video. This is representative of the pricing across the board that I'm looking at here. So the 3700X is a pretty decent CPU, will be more than good enough for a lot of games, matched with that GPU as well. So that is the mid-range gaming system. And then finally we've got the high-end system, and this is where the costs really kind of move up significantly on that side of things. So in terms of the case, well, I've gone for the NZXT H510 Elite. Very nice case, looks very premium, got dual tempered glass panels on it. I think your build would look absolutely perfect inside that case. Good mid-tower case as well. And with that, I am pairing it with a Corsair HX 850 power supply. So again, just moving it up another level, and this is an 80 plus platinum rated power supply, so good quality power supply for your system there. In terms of motherboard, so going with an Asus TUF Gaming motherboard. So this is the X570 Pro, and I think at this level you've got to be on an X570 base motherboard, or if you were doing Intel, kind of like the Intel equivalent. With RAM on this, we're going, no surprises, for 32 gigabytes of RAM, Corsair Vengeance RAM, so even faster speeds on that. So just all adding a little bit more to the overall performance of the system. So in terms of storage, well, we are going with an NVMe drive this time. So we're going with a Samsung 970 Evo 2 terabyte NVMe. So if you're going to get an X570 motherboard, you've got to stick an NVMe drive in it. In terms of CPU, Ryzen 9 5900X. That should do the job on a system like this. Again, if you prefer Intel, you get the equivalent Intel CPU there. And then finally, the GPU. Yes, there's probably better GPUs that you could go with, but again, going with the current generation of cards, looking at a Asus TUF RTX 3080. So pretty decent for a system of this kind of like price bracket. Obviously, more expensive cards are just going to add to the overall cost. So those are the three systems. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm sure you could pick different components, better components or whatever. This is just to represent what the pricing is doing across all the different types of components. So what I've done is I've pulled together all the pricing information for those items for the budget, mid-range and premium system since kind of like the second half of 2020, pulled all that information together and put it into some graphs for you guys, and that's what you've got coming up now. So there you go. What do you think of that pricing? Well, you know, for me, the budget and the mid-range, the prices just look all over the place, in my opinion. You know, budget systems in that set of prices there, they're down about 8% over the time period, and the mid-range is down about 7.5%, so not far off the budget one. But the pricing just seems to be quite volatile on you know, those types of components. It's really the high-end system that seems to be quite steady in its reduction, and it's down just around about 20%, which is obviously primarily down to the price of those expensive graphics cards. Yes, you know, the mid-range will have had an impact as well, but I think, you know, the 3060 never really got to be super expensive, in my opinion. You know, whereas the other ones, you know, the 3080s, etc., you know, they just kind of like skyrocketed. So I don't think we're anywhere near the bottom yet. I think there's some way to go, and obviously there are some significant announcements to come over the coming months. You know, you've got new AMD CPUs, obviously next generation of graphics cards and things like that. So I think, you know, there will be a bit more of a gradual reduction in prices. I don't think it will be dramatic. I think where the prices are going to come down are on the other components. You know, things like power supplies, they will come down in price. Memory, you know, SSDs, NVMEs, you know, they will come down in price. You know, they seem to have skyrocketed, and obviously a lot of the chip-based devices are now starting to stabilize a little bit. And I think, you know, certainly when I was looking at the pricing and seeing the fluctuations, you know, where the graphics cards were coming down, those other components were going up in price, and that was kind of leveling things out a little bit. But, you know, I think there is, you can see on all three of those charts there, you know, there is definitely a trend line of a reduction in pricing. I just don't think we are anywhere near where it potentially will end up in maybe kind of like the next 6 to 12 months. So I think if you're looking at buying a system, you know, as I've seen in other videos as well, I think the general consensus is kind of like do it gradually, you know, replace the components that you can. Obviously if you're buying a system outright, you know, you're kind of like taking your chance really. You know, do you buy now or wait it out to see how much the prices are going to fall? But, you know, if you are replacing the components, kind of like be a little bit sensible with the things that you can replace. You know, prices of RAM, as I've looked back over these kind of like last 18 months, pricing of RAM, you know, some of these kits have been as low as £30, which has been absolutely ridiculous. You know, they've only been like that for a couple of days, but they've really dropped. So let me know your thoughts, guys. You know, are you hanging on for you know, prices to keep on dropping a little bit more? Or do you think they've stabilized enough for you to kind of like get yourself upgraded or get a new system? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you've enjoyed the video, then don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.